How? The superego will be less amenable, not ready to change. It's not flexible. See, the sense of right and wrong you can change easily. Enough. But if the problem is with what? The fixation to the phallic stage, then they have a strongly internalized superego, which means the sense of right and wrong will not change for them. It's very difficult. Okay. Next. That's the end of the phallic stage. The next stage is a silent period. Not much happens in this period. The latency stage. It's a stage of very less activity. The libido is quite dormant. We have a dormant sexual energy here. So they are largely suppressed. The sexual feelings, impulses, the desires, they are all largely suppressed. The focus during this period, this energy will be rather channelized into the developmental aspects in other spheres, not sexual development, but other spheres. Other developmental aspects. Which developmental aspects? Mostly social and intellectual. Mostly social and intellectual. The age group for this is 6 to puberty, 6 to 12, let's say 11, 12. So 6 to 12. So social and intellectual mostly. The energy is is used for these purposes. Other developmental aspects in life. This is the phase when the relationships will be more towards same sex. So same sex friendships. So this is when you learn various hobbies, you develop various interests, skills, you learn new skills like swimming, some sport you choose. Okay. Same sex friendships, not the opposite sex friendships, same sex friendships. Age group 6 to 12. Next, superego development. When it comes to the superego development, the The child will be now a part of the society. Child will now be going to the school. From various places, the development of superego will become much more sophisticated, because it is getting the values, the inputs for values from various contexts and places. It becomes more sophisticated, it grows, the superego. Now what if the resolution has not happened in the phallic stage? Then what would happen? Superego development does not happen properly, है ना? यहाँ पे it is getting diversified, the superego is getting much more advanced. वो नहीं हो पाएगा, that will not happen. Yes. So any psychosexual conflict here? In the phallic stage we had the psychosexual conflict. Before that also we had a conflict. In the oral stage also there was a conflict. Here, no significant conflict at all. No significant conflict. Okay. Done. Which is the last stage? Genital stage. It's like this is a stage which is like there will generally be calmness before a storm, right? This is that calmness stage before the storm. Which is the storm? The next stage, the genital stage. (12) to adulthood. 12 to adulthood. So that is the genital stage. So what is this stage about? The sexual energy reawakens. Sexual energy reawakens. It is now directed towards mature sexual relationships and reproduction. Mature sexual relationships and reproduction. Next, pleasure. How? Sexual activity. However, sexual activity is going to be in a socially acceptable manner, and relationships. Socially acceptable relationships and socially acceptable manners. So it will be more mature, the relationships will be more mature, and the relationships will be with both same sex as well as the opposite sex. of these relationships, sexual and romantic relationships is what they seek out for mostly. Love and intimacy. They show love and intimacy. That is expressed. Individuals in this stage plan to procreate and start families. That is towards the end of this stage. Okay, done. If a person completes all these stages successfully, personality development will be complete, holistic. So the last stage is genital stage. ये है कि if a person completes all the first 4 stages without any fixations, genital stage will be normal, a free flow. Otherwise there will be problem in genital stage as well. Even in genital stage, your superego further develops, it grows and develops, it evolves further. Even as one understands the society better, even as one understands the values that the society stands for, the superego evolves more. Done. Next. Erogenous zone, genitals. So what is the pleasure? Engaging in sexual activity, right? However, in socially acceptable ways. So that is the genital stage. Now we are going to look at the positives and the negatives of this theory, the psychoanalytic theory. Strengths, weaknesses. This is the first comprehensive theory of human behavior and personality. The first ever. Strengths. The first ever comprehensive theory of human behaviors and personality. First ever. Second, base theory. It served as a base for the development of many other theories because of some original ideas that existed in this. Some original ideas which were a part of this theory became the base for development of other theories later. These ideas were rather challenging, rather stimulating. New ideas, original means new, own ideas. They were challenging, that those times were being challenged. At the same time, they were very interesting. Example, the idea of unconsciousness itself. The idea of unconscious. The idea of sexual desires, driving behavior. The idea of aggression, causing people to behave in myriad ways. Emphasis was laid on these things when trying to explain a person's behavior or personality. This was something which was novel, it was original. This is the first perspective which developed therapy. Today we have behaviorist therapy, behavioral therapy hai, cognitive therapy hai, cognitive behavioral therapy hai, CBT hai, humanistic therapy hai, right? We call it as client-centered therapy. We have all those therapies, but before that was the first one. So first system of psychotherapy was started by this perspective itself. For many therapists who came later on, after the psychoanalysis was, it became famous. After this, many theorists or therapists started using the methods used by this therapy itself or this theory itself. Which methods? Free association, dream analysis, hypnosis, first we'll see what free association is. Or shall we look at these three later on? खत्म कर देते हैं, advantages, disadvantages, strengths, weaknesses खत्म कर देते हैं, उसके बाद देखेंगे ये. Next, criticism, negatives. One, the entire theory or the perspective of psychoanalysis as propounded by Freud is built on case studies. Case study as in individual cases were taken into consideration, right? And based on that, he has developed the theory. How should it be? On the other hand, it should be on the basis of experiments, maybe studies, maybe, right? Sample size is an issue here. The sample that is selected is not representative. It's not a representative sample. What is a representative sample? From the population, if you choose the people randomly and do the study, then it is representative sample. How are the people chosen here for developing this theory for a study? Only the people who went to him saying that they had some issue mentally. So it's not like normal people have been taken into consideration to develop this theory. It is only what people who already are suffering from some sort of mental illness, right? The patients or what are the sample. Now how can you apply the theory that has been developed of using the patient's inputs to normal people. Okay. So that is the second problem. Third criticism. So you can also say about the sample, they do not represent the normal people. Why? Because most of the people who went to Freud, no, even amongst the patients, these patients were mostly from European families and they were wealthy families. Mostly they went. So you can't apply this to poor people then. I know you can't apply it to normal people. Yes. Next. The concepts which have been propagated by Freud, they're not amenable to scientific inquiry. You can't do scientific inquiry. You can't run experiments and find out whether what he has claimed is correct or wrong. Done. Next, interpretation bias is the next problem. This is about the subjectivity. Subjectivity. The patient said something. Patient just gave the inputs about a dream. Now Freud can interpret in whatever way he wants and draw the inference on the basis of that. Is there subjectivity to it or not? There's a lot of subjectivity involved. Okay, there's a lot of subjectivity involved. So there is no strict rules according to which you can interpret. So it is going to be based on whatever the therapist thinks. Yes. Next. Finally, there's a lot of experimental effect. Involved in the development of theory. When this theory was developed, there's a lot of experimental effect that is involved in it. What is this experimental effect? First thing is expectation. The first thing is expectations. Whose expectations? The experimenter's expectations. What does this mean? It means that Freud already had certain ways of thinking, right? He had a certain way of thinking or certain ideas about this should be the outcome. This will be the outcome. This was his expectation. Don't you think he would have interacted with the patients in such a manner the outcome will be same as what he has taught? Yes or no? What is this? Experimenter's expectations. So this is about expectations. It's about researchers' expectations about the outcomes can subconsciously influence experimenters' expectations about the outcomes can subconsciously influence their behavior and interaction with patients or the participants. The participants here are nothing but the patients. Okay. There's one more problem from the participant side in experiment effect. From the participant side, what is the problem? The participant may align with what the experimenter's ideas, if the participant gets to know that this is what the experimenter is looking for. That also is very much possible. So the participant may align their responses, with experimenter's expectations, rather unconsciously. They're not doing it knowingly, unknowingly they may do it. Because of both or all the three here, the validity of the theory or the findings itself will go down. What is validity? Validity is if I say that prelims examination is to what? Check whether the person is having the ability to become a civil servant or not, right? I am saying what? Prelims examination is to check whether the person has the ability to become a civil servant or not. If it is actually checking those parameters which are required, then the validity of the prelims examination is high. Instead, if the prelims examination has those questions which is suitable for you to become a driver, then what is the validity of the prelims examination? It is zero. It does not have any validity at all. This exam is being conducted for civil services, you are saying, but what is the exam for actually? For drivers. Validity kya hai? Zero. So the validity of anything will be higher when the intended purpose matches what it measures. Here, the theory claims certain things, right? On what basis? On the findings. If the findings itself are not on strong foothold, then the validity of the entire theory goes down, right? So ये है validity. Next, these are the criticisms. Free association. So we have three things: free association, dream analysis, and hypnosis. Free association. So it is a method used in psychoanalysis or a psychoanalytic method. In the therapy, especially in the therapy, to unravel or to explore the patient's unconscious thoughts, emotions, and memories. Unconscious thoughts, emotions, and memories. During the therapy session, the patient is asked to speak freely without any censorship, without any censorship or any self-editing. No self-editing. Don't change it on your own. Whatever thought is coming to your mind, just speak freely. Sometimes this information which is being spoken out, so the kind of information, even if it is trivial, say it. Even if it is irrelevant, speak out. Even if it is embarrassing, no matter how embarrassing it is, how irrelevant it is, how trivial it is, you just have to, just keep saying. Okay, this is the first step. The therapist, what will he be doing? The therapist is a passive person now. He just keeps listening with little involvement, absolutely, very less involvement, and interpretation is also not being done as of now. No interpretation is being done now. No guidance. Don't say this, say something else. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. Okay. The aim of the therapist, while the free association is happening, is to ensure that it provides a judgment-free environment. Judgment-free, calm environment is provided to the patient. Okay. Even as the patients, see, why is the therapist allowing this to happen? The therapist believes that even as you allow them to go through the information and they are freely associating, you can uncover the unconscious TM. But even as they try to access and bring out this information, the patients may start to inhibit the information. The defense mechanisms may kick in. Remember defense mechanisms? Remember the defense mechanisms? Yes, the ego may start working, not allowing these thoughts to come out, or they may express resistance, basically not allowing these thoughts to flow freely. The moment they start showing resistance, they are saying something, in between, if they stop somewhere or they change the topic, they say it in a different manner against the flow of thought, it means there is resistance. That is a potential conflict area. When do you divert from a topic? When you don't want to talk about it, it means there is controversial, there is something controversial. Understood? So yeah, it is quite common to come across what? Resistance, which points to what? The defense mechanisms that are being employed, as well as the existence of conflicts. It shows the existence of conflicts. Okay. So once significant material has been collected, so the therapist listens, takes notes. Once significant material has been received, then the therapist will start the last part, that is interpretation. Therapist will start interpretation based on the information that has been collected. So he analyzes and interprets it, and gives an idea to the patient about the existing conflicts, right, and help them resolve those conflicts, resolution of the conflicts. So basically it is mostly talking. Done. So where were all these conflicts? They were in the unconscious. Normally they don't come out. What were they doing instead? They were polluting your thinking of sort. Because your thinking was being polluted, your behaviors were also abnormal. You are not happy at all. Why were you not happy? Because it is being polluted by someone. You don't know who. Right? Who is that according to Freud? The unconscious. The conflicts that exist in the unconscious. Using free association, you are able to bring out that information. During this process, you get to understand where the conflicts are. Freud helps the patients about what? Okay, these are the conflict areas. You have to resolve these conflict areas. Once you come to understand, there will be resolution. Right? Dream analysis is also the same. Did you get a dream yesterday? No, you did not get. You woke up? How many times did you wake up? Once. Only once. 1:45. You woke up. No dream. At what time you slept? 11. So 2.5 hours. That's enough time. So maybe you woke up at the wrong time. Try again. It's like you are supposed to wake up at that point in time when the REM sleep is ongoing. No. See, it's like this. You have stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4, right? So the final stage is the REM sleep stage, right? That's when you get after almost like stage 4, you get the REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. This is when the dreams come. What happens is, the cycle is initially, it is stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4 REM. This is initially, and it takes almost like 1.5 to 2 hours for this cycle, initial cycle. For the second cycle, what happens is stage 1 is skipped. You have stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4. The stage 2, stage 3 becomes shorter, right? and stage 4 increases again. Now the cycle will be probably shorter, it will be only 1.5 hours. Later the cycle becomes much shorter. So you will be going on through multiple cycles, and you are supposed to wake up when? During this period. Maybe you woke up during this period, right? So every person must dream. It is not possible at all. Why? Because there will be some activity going on in your brain, right? So yesterday I did get a dream. I recall that I have said it in the class, right? And I recalled the dream. I was able to remember back then when I woke up. Now I have forgotten. It's like, in order to remember the dreams also, you have to revise it. If you don't revise, it will be lost. Very simple. So you try it if you want. You have had so many dreams so far. Can you clearly tell me at least 10 dreams you have had in your life? 10 to jodo. 5 dreams with fine details, right? See, when you woke up and recalled the dream, you would have remembered the fine details. With such detail, can you tell me 5? It's not possible because you did not revise. Understood the importance of revision? It's so important, right? Okay, dream analysis. First, collecting the dream content. Collect the content. So the patient is supposed to describe the dream in detail, okay, including all the elements that were present in the dream, the emotions that were there in the dream, everything about the dream, all details have to be given. So once the content is given, now Freud is going to ask them to engage in free association based on the dream content. What is the second step? Free associate. Again, same steps. From here on, it is the same steps. So first one was without the dream content. Now, with the dream content, you have to free associate. Freud believed that whatever content you are providing has some symbols. Whatever information you are giving has some symbols, and these symbols represent repressed conflicts or thoughts or events. Those symbols which come in your dream represent what? You have repressed certain things, you have pushed them down into unconscious. Those things which you have repressed into unconscious, they are coming out as what? Symbols. Now if you give the meaning to the symbol, then it's as good as understanding what the conflict was all about, right? So identification of symbols. Freud says that, the content has two parts. One, the manifest content, and the latent content. Manifest content is the content which you know clearly, what you can remember, clearly. Latent content is the one which is hidden in the unconscious. The access to this latent content is through what? Through the symbols. Symbols provide the channel to access what? The latent content. Basically, the repressed content. The main source of unconscious conflicts, according to Freud, was mostly the sexual and aggression themes. Sexual theme and aggression theme. These are the ones in most cases caused conflicts. And these are the conflicts which you have repressed. We believe that some of the dreams, while they are about what? Conflicts, sexual conflicts, or maybe aggression related issues that have been repressed. We also believe that dreams are also a window to your wishes, right, which you have repressed. So window to what? Wishes, undesirable wishes. Undesirable to whom? Undesirable to society. उन विशेष के लिए भी विंडो है. So they are all being expressed indirectly through the dreams. Okay. Resolution. Of course, we said Freud is going to then explain everything. So this is the symbol that was there. This is why you are getting this symbol in your dream, right? It was a wish, it was a conflict which you have pushed it down, right? So iska resolution kya hai? You understand that this is why it was happening. You have to confront it, right? So you had pushed it down long ago, and this was affecting the way you think, the way you behave, right? So the solution is here itself. You take the conflict head on. Now that you know what the conflict is all about, what the issue is all about. This method is known as cathartic method. Catharsis or cathartic method. Okay. What is catharsis? Basically cleansing, right? Breaking it down and cleansing of sort, right? Breaking everything down into smaller pieces, understand it better. Sort of cleansing. That's what is being done. It is known as the cathartic method. Okay, you broke down everything into smaller pieces, made the person understand what it is all about, right? You gave an interpretation to it. So if you just tell that these are the symbols that were present, the other person will not understand, right? You have to give an interpretation to it. This symbol was there in your dream because of this reason, right? Next. Some of the dream analysis run by Freud. What about hypnosis? Hypnosis was the earlier method used by Freud, earliest method used by Freud in order to gain access to what? unconscious. But he found that hypnosis is not working well. He was not able to get enough information through hypnosis. So he changed. What he did? He moved towards free association and dream analysis. Right? So what is hypnosis about? It is an altered state of consciousness, causing the patient to go into an altered state of consciousness while they were relaxed and trying to get the information out. Right? Based on the information collected, you are going to draw the inferences, interpret the data and inferences. So he was not able to get much information probably through hypnosis. So he gave up this idea of hypnosis. Instead, he adopted what? Dream analysis and free association. So it was the earlier method used. Now coming to dream analysis or free association content. How did Freud use this content? Some of the examples. Flying dreams. If the dreams had something related to flying, what was that about? It was about sexual independence and getting away from the daily routine, daily restrictions or constraints of life. Okay, that is what you wish for, but you are not doing it. That is why you are having anxiety, you are having depression, maybe. That is the reason. The cause is mental. Second, if you have a dream about you losing a tooth, right? If the teeth are falling off in your dream, you break the teeth in your dream. What is the meaning? It can be seen as a symbol of castration anxiety. For women, it may be a case of the feelings of vulnerability. Basically, fear of losing something. If you have a dream in which you are being chased, somebody is chasing you in the dream. What does this mean? It's about the repressed desire or conflict. Causing the inner struggle. Which you are trying to escape from but not able to. You want to resolve this conflict, you want to come out of it, but you're not able to. That is why you are being chased. You're not being let alone by the conflict or the dream, or rather than the dream or the wish. If the dream is about being naked in public, it shows feelings of insecurity. Fear of being judged. Or maybe you have a lot of desire for authenticity. If you are having a dream about drowning, It is about you are being consumed by your inner desires or the repressed thoughts, emotions. You are being consumed from within. You have so many conflicts which are unresolved. Death. If you have a dream about death or dying, it does not symbolize death per se. It is not about death. It's more about you wishing for the old you to die and and become a reformed person. Done. That's the end of Freud. ठीक है. So much for Freud. I think you will be able to write any answer that is related to psychoanalytical method. You have somewhere around 5 to 6 pages of content. Yes. उससे ज्यादा है, बहुत ज्यादा है. कितना है? That's more than sufficient. Next. Neo-Freudian approach or the psychodynamic school. Psychodynamism, go ahead. You have the Neo-Freudian approaches. Neo-Freudian approaches. Freud's theory was rooted in biological drives. It was rooted in biological instincts. So it was mostly biological instincts. So you have some biological instincts. If those instincts are obstructed, then there will be repression, and when repression happens, you have unresolved conflicts, and because of that, if the fixation happens, then it is going to be problematic in the personality development. Now, Neo-Freudians do not agree completely with it, but they agree partially. What the Neo-Freudians say is that the social aspects are also important. The cultural aspects are also important, social cultural aspects. At the same time, they also bring in the concept of self. So self, social, cultural, as well as interpersonal. All these aspects, different Neo-Freudians have come up with different theories. If some focus on interpersonal, some focus on self, some focus on social, cultural. Okay, that is why you have different theories. How do they differ from Freud? First difference is this. So excessive emphasis on biological instincts, that was Freud. They shifted the focus away from that towards other aspects as well when it comes to explaining personality or personality development. Next, second, they also reject the idea that personality is formed in the first 5 to 6 years. That is what Freud said. Freud's idea was that personality, most of the personality is formed in the first 5 to 6 years itself. Why? Because till 5 to 6 years itself, you have what? Oral, anal, and phallic. Till 6 years itself. After that, you have the latency phase. It's not so, there's not much activity there. After that, you have the genital stage. वो भी उतना, खास चीजें नहीं बताया हुआ, right? You don't find many important things being said there, right? So it just assumes that the genital stage is a mature stage, and it is all because of whatever has happened in the first 3 stages itself. So not many things change in the last 2 stages. It is just the flow. The last 2 stages are more about the flow. Okay. अभी इस stage में 5 to 6 years is what Freud had said. They reject this idea. The neo-Freudians say that later experiences, especially during adolescence and early adulthood, are also very, very important for what? Personality development. Adolescence and early adulthood are also very, very important. In fact, if you look at Erik Erikson, according to him, personality development happens all throughout life. Lifespan, entire lifespan, personality development keeps on happening. You remember those stages? Can you recall the stages once? How many stages? 8 stages. Yes. So throughout life. About this, the person who says that the cultural and social aspects are more important is Karan Horney. REN. So this person says that social and cultural aspects are more important than biological instincts. Okay. Especially, she speaks about the gender development or sexual identification zone. Okay. Third, Freud's psychoanalysis or psychoanalytical theory has a negative connotation or a negative tone mostly that has been changed to the positive tone by the neo-Freudians. Generally negative tone hai in Freud. In Freud, it is negative tone. All throughout the theory, you see it is just about conflicts, repression, right? Anxiety, fear, aggression. बहुत सारे negative है. So he was the theory sort of degrades the human nature. right? Degraded human nature. The Neo-Freudians emphasize the role of conscious and ego, or the self. They bring in the self concept and make it look more optimistic. The human nature is more optimistic. It brings a positive tone. It gives a positive feeling when it comes to these theories. Okay. The first theory which we are going to learn in this, in the Neo-Freudians, the first Neo-Freudian, Alfred Adler, and his theory is, Alfred Adler's theory is called individual psychology. Alfred Adler's individual psychology. So he was a follower of Freud. They accept the existence of unconscious. All Neo-Freudians accept the significance of unconscious. Okay. So this Alfred Adler, the first thing he posits is striving for superiority. Striving for superiority. This is his first idea. What he says is, humans by birth or innately have a drive to be superior. They have an innate drive to be superior beings. To realize their full potential. Just think about it this way. When you are born, you have nothing but weaknesses. As a child, you have nothing but weaknesses. But even as we grow, we try to master so many things, we learn so many skills, right? And what is this all about? This is about striving for superiority or not. So when you are a child, you did not have the ability to do anything. Why did you learn stuff? Because you wanted to become superior. You had to master certain things. And where did this motivation come from? From inside. So humans have this innate sovereign drive to become superior. Right? Example, as a child, as children, we have so many weaknesses, but we learn so many skills. We master so many skills. So we begin our life with a profound sense of inferiority itself. Right? Everything we do in our life, almost everything we do in our lives, human lives, when you look at it, it is trying to establish a sense of superiority. everything. So that's what Alfred Adler says. If you are trying to clear an exam, you're just trying to have that sense of superiority, right? If you are sensing competition somewhere and trying to, surpass that competition, it's just that what are you trying to do? You're trying to become superior. That's it. Yes. However, in some cases, people develop inferiority complex. And that's when they avoid or run away from the challenges. Okay. Understood? And when you have the inferiority complex, right, that's when there's going to be problem. There can be two outcomes because of this. Whenever there is inferiority complex, there can be two outcomes. What are the two outcomes? One is a good outcome, one is not so good outcome. So for this, you have an innate striving force which you are born with. You're born with an innate striving force. Even as you try to achieve something, you sense that there is a physical deficiency in order to achieve it. Yes or no? Physically, it's not possible for some reason. Certain things you are able to do, certain things you are not able to. You sense that physical deficiency. The moment you sense that physical deficiency, what do you develop? You develop inferiority complex. From here, you have two possibilities. From here, you have two possibilities from the inferiority complex. Inferiority complex is just about the feeling of incompetence. Yes. If you have normal feeling of incompetence, or if you have the exaggerated feelings of incompetence, that's what the difference is all about. What will happen? Normal feelings of incompetence is like, see, I'm not able to do well in this because there is a physical deficiency. This is what is possible. This is the maximum I can do. The other person is able to do, better just because he is not able to do certain things in the other area. I am able to do it. So this is what normal feeling of incompetence. Whenever there is normal feeling of incompetence, the outcome is people generally develop some social interest. They develop some social interest. What is social interest? There are certain societal issues, social issues, right? They, try to be a part of a solution to the social problems, and they will generally be successful in that. They see success. And now they see that final goal of their life is clearly perceived. They sense that, okay, My life's goal was this. I have done it. This is what they feel. Who have normal feelings of incompetence. See, I have incompetence. Yes, it is normal. I can't be, good in all the areas. There are certain areas where I have to be inferior. So, I can compensate for that by being a part of solution to certain problems that exist in the society. And they generally succeed also. And they understand the purpose of their life also. What is this final goal clearly perceived? What is the final goal? What is the purpose of life? They clearly understand. On the other hand, people who have the exaggerated feelings of inferiority, exaggerated feelings of incompetence or competency, for them, they always think only about the personal gain. Striving for what? Personal superiority. And they generally fail. Why? Because physically it is not possible. And then what is the outcome? Dimly perceived final goal. They don't understand what the purpose of their life is. Okay. So according to him, Alfred Adler, a person who lacks social interests, basically this is the person who really has mental illness. Why? Because if you go into that area, no, right? Personal gain only, don't care about others, which means relationships, no value. That is how that area is. This area is more about, you think about the society, you think about the community, you think about relationships. Where? Here in this side. So lack of social interest is seen to be the cause of all mental health issues. All failures become failures where? That leg, right? They have tried many things, they are not able to achieve. Why are they not able to achieve? Their benchmark is personal superiority. They are not able to achieve. Now what they become? All the failures become criminals, drunkards, problematic children. Why did they become like this? Because they have tried to achieve personal superiority and they fail, and their failure is guaranteed. Okay, and these are the people who become like that. And what is the sole reason for that? Lack of social interest. Okay, lack of social interest. Next. Absolutely, there, that side. It's a mental ill health, no? So it would come that side. Next. He identified that there are two parental styles which clearly push the children to that side. They have a profound negative impact on personality development. Two styles, profound impact. Which are they? One is permissive, that is liberal, right? And the second one is neglectful. They are the worst ones. According to whom? Adler. So the first one, which is the one? Permissive. Permissive में क्या होता है? Basically, it's about pampering. The second one is complete neglect. Okay. The first one is more like you have drawn a boundary, they can cross it. Second one is like there is no boundary. You don't bother to draw a boundary. Okay. Another aspect which Alfred Adler has shed light on is the birth order. The role of birth order on personality development. Role of birth order on personality development. So he goes with the understanding that there are 3 kids in a family. If there are 3 kids in a family, how will the personality development be of these 3 kids? The first kid, the firstborn, is given maximum attention initially. Firstborn is given maximum attention initially. So much care. The first baby, everybody cares. So it gets so much attention. Later, the firstborn loses the position. It is dethroned. Right? The firstborn is dethroned by the arrival of the secondborn. The moment the second baby comes, first baby done. It is dethroned. So they might develop personality, right? Personality wise, they might develop a sense of jealousy. They may grow jealous. Okay. They have a sense of taking responsibility later on in their life. Why? Because they are the eldest. They may act parent-like. Yes, sir. The second, which is the middle born. The second born never gets complete attention. Why does it not get complete attention? Even before it was getting complete attention, there is a entry of third born. Yes, the entry of the third born. The third born or the last born is the most pampered. And the second born or the middle born is the highest achiever. Why is it the highest achiever? Because there is already a benchmark set by the first one. And the second one is supposed to be a benchmark for the last one. right? So at the same time, the middle one has a benchmark to reach as well as a benchmark to set. The last one is the most pampered one throughout childhood, and the last one is the one most vulnerable to develop feelings of inferiority. Why? Two benchmarks are set. See, if you meet the benchmark which has been set by the eldest, they will start comparing you with the second one. Second one is the highest achiever. You can't reach it. Now you have a feeling of inferiority complex. There is a feeling of inferiority. So they are the ones, who keep trying and then are like, there's no point in trying. I can't. Leave it. I'll become a criminal of sort. Okay. So why? Because see, the moment you develop those inferiority complex, you only have two choices. Either you go that side or this side. If the last born goes that side, criminal. If the last born comes this side, useful person in the society. Done. So this is what your Alfred Adler. Personality related. See, just think about it. Alfred Adler's theory is covering only one or two areas. When it comes to Freud, it has covered almost every other area. I know. Next, analytic psychology, not analytical, it is analytic. Analytic psychology. This is the next theory given by next Neo-Freudian. So one Neo-Freudian is done. Alfred Adler is done. Second, Carl Jung. Analytic psychology. Carl Jung. 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 We'll take a break. Yes, we'll come back at 3:45. Okay, we'll come back at 3:45. Okay, done.
The recording has stopped. This meeting is being recorded.
Analytic psychology. Who's it? Carl Jung. Jung nahi hai, Jung hai. Okay. So in this theory, the understanding of personality is from a philosophical perspective. Philosophical understanding of self and personality. So from the perspective of philosophical values, primordial images. What is primordial? Primordial, previous, prototype. Primordial क्या होता है? See, it is very old, the earliest of sort, right? Primordial, which is mostly ancestral, you can say, right? Antecedent क्या होता है, by the way? Antecedent, historical antecedents हम बोले थे. हाँ, antecedent is before the incident. That's it. Antecedent, right? Incident, before the incident, antecedent, right? So psychology is an incident. Before psychology, what were all the incidents? Antecedents, historical antecedents. Okay. So primordial images and symbols. As also a drive for self-fulfillment. A drive for self-fulfillment. So personality is viewed from these perspectives. So this theory says that a person from birth, his personality is a whole. You cannot break it down into parts. It's a whole. So person is a whole from the birth. So personality is not something which we acquire piece by piece. It already exists from birth. Personality exists from birth. It's not something we build piece by piece. We don't build it piece by piece. It is already there as a whole. What is it? It's a collection of these philosophical values, primordial images and symbols, you know, a drive for self-fulfillment. We'll learn about these things in a while. Psyche, human psyche, or the human mind, consists of 3 interacting levels. Human psyche as three interacting levels. The first level is the consciousness. Second, personal unconscious. Third, the collective unconscious. So there are three interacting levels in the human psyche, human mind. Those three interacting levels are the conscious, personal unconscious, and collective unconscious. Remember, there is no pre-conscious, there is no subconscious. And you have unconscious, you have two types of unconscious here, personal and collective. Our aim, personality development, proper personality development. When does it happen? It happens when these three interacting levels are not allowed to dissociate. They should not be allowed to split and conflict. There are certain things in the conscious, there are certain things in the personal unconscious, and there are certain things in the collective unconscious. If they are separated from one another, and if the elements in them conflict with each other, then the personality development will not be proper. Okay, then you have all the illnesses, disorders. So you are supposed to make them work in unison as a whole. They should be working as a whole. They should not be led to split. The aim of the therapy, according to this theory, should be what? Should be what? To regain that wholeness. See, the moment dissociation is there, what would happen? You have mental disorders. How to treat the mental disorders? Using therapy. What is the therapy? What is the aim of the therapy? To join them again, to make it a whole again, to bring that wholeness back. That should be the aim of the therapy, and ensure that further dissociation does not happen. That should be the aim of the therapy. This theory speaks about the ego. Or you can say the ego is the one which later on becomes self. Ego or the self. It is the one which maintains the balance between conscious and the unconscious levels. You have two unconscious levels, yes. So the ego maintains the balance between what? The conscious and the unconscious levels. It maintains the balance. Don't you think even as the ego maintains this balance, it tries to maintain a balance between, you have the conscious, personal unconscious, and collective unconscious. Even as it tries to maintain the balance between these three, amongst these three, don't you think it is different from one person to another, right? Don't you think individuation of self happens? What is individuation? A self which is different from one another. Unique selves will generate in each person. Yes. So the meaning is this. Let's say you have the ego. Ego's work is what? To maintain the balance between the three levels. Which are the three levels? Conscious, personal, unconscious, and collective unconscious. We'll learn about what these are. इनका balance maintain करना है. So this is the ego. Ego is trying to maintain the balance. Don't you think the conscious of you is different from the conscious of other person? Conscious experience of you is different from the conscious experience of this person. Your personal memories, unconscious means personal memories, let's suppose, are different from another person. Yes, they are different. That is why the way you manage the balance is also different. Even as you do this balancing act, what is the result? You develop a self. Don't you think the self will be different for each person? We call it as what? Individuation of self. Self gets individuated. Done. So there is a conscious, there is a unconscious, that is personal level, as well as collective level. This collective level unconscious is common unconscious. What is common unconscious? I'll tell you. A simple example is every person has a tendency to wake up in the morning and sleep at night, commonly, right? Is it something which is there in your conscious all the time? No, it is automatic. How did it come to you? As a group, we have got it. That is why, what is it? Collective unconscious. At a personal level, there are certain things which you do unconsciously. You do it at a personal level. The other person does certain other things at an unconscious level, right? So this is common for everyone. This is different for everyone. And this is also different for everyone. We have to maintain a balance amongst the three, right? When you try to maintain the balance amongst the three, don't you think a different self is developed for each person? Who is doing this work? The ego is doing this work. That is why, what do we get? An individuation of self. So everybody's self is different. Why? Because the management work is also different. Okay. The personal unconscious is made up of individual memories, thoughts, feelings based on personal experience. Memories, thoughts, emotions, feelings, all those based on personal experience. On the other hand, your collective unconscious, what is it made up of? Collective unconscious is made up of ancestral images, or the name we use for that, ancestral images or archetypes. The collective unconscious is made up of ancestral images, or we can call them as archetypes. Okay. A person's intellectual life or personality. There's one part of the personality. or one part of your life which has been inherited, right? From whom? From the ancestors. What is that part? That part is made up of archetypes. What are these archetypes like? One of the archetypes is persona, is an archetype. One archetype is persona. Okay, tell me, did somebody teach you to be in a particular manner, but you actually are different inside? Basically, masking. Did somebody teach you, or you have adapted, you have learned it on your own? Certain times, majority of the times, you only evolve, right? And you learn it on your own. That is to mask your true feelings, maybe true thoughts. Maybe you're thinking something else and doing something else. What is this? Persona. It's like you are an animal inside, but you don't behave like an animal. Kya hai ye? Persona. See, at the end of the day, we are also biological beings, and you also have the animals which are biological beings. So we don't act like animals. Today we say it is because of the culture, but what is he saying? He's saying because of the persona. What is that persona? The meaning is the mask. It has been inherited. This mask has been inherited from the ancestors. What is it a part of? It is a part of collective unconscious part. Next, anima and animus is another archetype. Anima and animus. It is a unconscious mirror image of our conscious gender. Unconscious mirror image of our conscious gender. It's basically anima and animus is about. It's just that unconsciously a man knows how a woman feels. Unconsciously a woman knows how a man feels, right? At an unconscious level, they understand it. Yes. What is this? Basically, your ability to understand the opposite sex. Unconsciously, you are able to do it, at least to some extent. Why is this? It is because of the presence of archetype. Which archetype? Anima, animus. Understood? Next. Done? So can you say that self is the one which unites all the three levels and gives us a sense of oneness? Self is the one which gives us a sense of oneness by holding all the aspects of psyche together. It maintains okay, done. Huh? Self gives us a sense of oneness, even as it maintains, even as it maintains all the aspects of the psyche together. Further, Carl Jung speaks of dynamic polarities. This is the management work which the ego does. The dynamic polarities. He also calls them the tension systems. What is it about? One, conscious versus unconscious values. They come head to head sometimes. If they are contradictory, right, then you have a tension system created. Right? Consciousness is asking you to adapt a particular value, but it goes against the personal unconscious values or the collective unconscious values. Done. Whose work is to manage this conflict? Self or the ego. Second, introversion versus extroversion. Introversion versus extroversion. This is another tension system. As in, your consciousness wants you to be introvert, or your unconscious wants you to be extrovert, right? And your conscious wants you to be an introvert. Now it becomes problematic, no? And then sublimation versus repression. Remember sublimation versus repression. All these are conflicting. Which one to choose? Sublimation is an effective way of dealing with a conflict. Repression is not dealing with the conflict, pushing the conflict away. So which one to choose? This becomes problematic. Whose work is to deal with all these things? Self or the ego. Now the question is, where does it derive the energy from? The ego. Libido. Remember the libido? Yes. This is not the sexual energy we are talking about. This is the tension energy. What he says, who Carl Jung says, is the moment the tension system is created, it fires up the libido and it energizes the ego in order to resolve these conflicts. Understood? Clear? Look at the perspective. It is the same words almost, but the way we are using it is becoming different with each theory. Okay, shall we recap Carl Jung once? So Carl Jung's theory, three things I told you. Carl Jung's theory: psyche is interpreted in terms of philosophical values, primordial images and symbols, and then drive for self-fulfillment. Yes. So basically, look at the life as a whole, look at personality as a whole, not in parts. So then we spoke about what is ego, and then how self gets developed and how self gets individuated. And then we have 3 levels of psyche, which are, interacting all the time. One is consciousness, 2 personal unconscious, 3 collective unconscious. Personal unconscious is the one which is created as a result of personal experiences, the memories, the thoughts, the emotions, all these things. And when it comes to the collective unconscious, it is made up of ancestral images, which we call it as archetypes. Some of the examples of archetypes: persona, anima and animus. There is one more, shadow. Shadow is nothing but the animal side of human, right? So these 3 things, and they should be always working in unison. They should be on the same plane when they fight with one another, right? The main aim of self is to keep them together, keep them all on the same page. If they go on to a different page, then dissociation would happen. If dissociation happens, mental disorders is the result. So ego's work is to keep them together. And now generally dynamic polarities are created or tension systems are created, right? They have a tendency to dissociate this, understanding or the balance. So the tension system, sometimes it is conscious versus unconscious, sometimes it is introversion, extroversion. Aisa tension systems create hota hai. Whenever the tension system is created, energy is released. This energy we call it as libido. This libido fires up the ego to do what? To do the management, in order to ensure that they come back to the same page again, right? What is this known as? This entire system, right, is your Carl Jung's analytic theory, right? What is it? It is your analytic theory. Done. Next. Three. See, these are the dynamic polarities that can be created. There can be many dynamic polarities, right? So there can be more problems, as in a person wants to use a defense mechanism like what? Displacement versus sublimation, right? Collective unconscious propels you to use displacement, right? But you are using what? Repression maybe, or you are using another strategy. This is a conscious thought. Consciously you want to use repression, right? But collective unconscious is asking you to do something else. Collective unconscious wants you to sleep at what time? Probably 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Consciously what you are doing? You are sleeping at 1 o'clock. Now are they on the same page? No. Is there a dynamic polarity? Yes. Yes or no? Now whose work is it to bring them on the same plane? Ego. Ego's work. Now who fired ego? This discrepancy itself fired ego, put ego into action in order to bring these two onto the same page. If ego is able to bring them onto the same page, then fine. If not, there will be what? Disparity. Because of the disparity, there will be some sort of mental disorder, right? So what is this? This is your analytic psychology. The next, here ego is going to be the one which is evolved. That is why I told you. See, ego is not a fixed entity, it is an evolving entity. It keeps learning. Yes, absolutely. So this ego is not a static ego we are talking about. This is a evolving ego. That is why the evolving ego, we call it as what? The self. Right? Next, this is one of the most philosophical theory you have in personality. Right? Carl Jung. Apart from this, all other people are normal. I mean, he's also normal. Next, Erickson. So he is the third person, right? Erickson. What is his theory? Lifespan development, no? So his theory is psychosocial development theory. You know? Psychosocial. So far we have seen how many? This is the fourth one. Psychoanalytical. उसके बाद न्यू फ्रॉइडियन में फर्स्ट कौन सा था? ऑल्फ्रेड एडलर्स इंडिविजुअल साइकोलॉजी. उसके बाद एनालिटिक साइकोलॉजी, थर्ड वन. फोर्थ psychosocial, Erik Erikson. So according to Erik Erikson, in each stage of life, the person experiences a psychosocial crisis. A psychosocial crisis. Once you solve the psychosocial crisis, you get a virtue. Right? This virtue is going to be the stepping stone for, being competent enough to be successful in the next stage. So how many stages? 8 stages. So the first stage. So every stage you complete and you gain a reward. What is the reward? Virtue. Healthy personality development happens at each stage. At every stage, healthy personality development happens. If you fail to complete a particular stage and move on to the next stage, the personality development will not be healthy. There will be some lag or some, laxity. At the same time, there's going to be a problem of, the self. The concept of self will also not evolve properly. So each stage you have to complete. After completion, you gain a virtue. So what are these stages and what are the virtues? If you don't get a virtue, what is the problem? If you fail in the stage, what will be the outcome? First stage. What is the first stage of development? Trust versus mistrust. Age group? 0 to 18 months. If the care received by the baby is consistent, reliable, the baby is going to trust this world. Yes or no? So if the parents are giving enough care, reliable care, then the baby is going to trust this world. I have come to this new world. Okay, fine. I will be able to survive. It will develop a virtue called as hope. Yes or no? It will develop a virtue called hope. If they're not able to gain trust, rather, if they develop mistrust, that is the failure of the stage. The babies will develop and it will be carried into adulthood. Anxiety, trust issues, anxiety, trust issues, suspicion. They grow to be suspicious individuals. They'll not be able to handle the situations if they're surprised. They will be overwhelmed. Okay. So they will not have the confidence in the world. That is why they have these. So that is why what is important? Trust. First stage. What will they get? They get hope. That is the virtue they get. Obviously. Entirely about parents. Next. You can attach or link this stage to Bowlby and Ainsworth. Remember Bowlby? Ainsworth? They have given attachment theories. They have stressed on how important attachment is. Okay. So you can use those arguments to support whom? Support Erik Erikson's first stage. Clear? Next. What is the second stage? Initiative versus guilt. Is it? Second stage. Autonomy versus shame. Autonomy versus shame and guilt. Autonomy versus shame and guilt, doubt. Autonomy versus shame and doubt. What is it they develop? With autonomy, if they are able to successfully complete it. Will is the virtue. The virtue they develop will be will. So basically they have to be supported in their activities, right? If you give them independence in the activities they do, they come to believe that they will be able to survive in this world on their own. That is the will. They will be able to survive on their own. They get the confidence basically. If children in this stage are not given enough autonomy, if they are restricted, if they are controlled too much, not given an opportunity to explore, then they will develop shame and doubt. So if they are not given opportunities to explore, if they are restricted too much, if they are helped too much, basically, then they develop shame and doubt. They become overly dependent on others. Even as they grow, they become overly dependent on others. They have low self-esteem. Basically, they doubt their abilities. And they also have a sense of, see, self-esteem is low means they have a sense of shame. Okay. So what age group? 18 to 36. So example, it's more like a child trying to fasten the shoes, right? Wear the shoes. The child should be first allowed to try it. If it is trying, let it try. Do not stop it. Hey, this is not the way. I'll help you. No. You should allow to explore. It is wearing the shirt, ulta pehen liya. Let it wear. Let it try. You're not the way, hey, aisa karte hai, mocking it. So काम नहीं चलेगा. It will become over dependent. It will have low self-esteem. Done. 3. Initiative versus guilt. Initiative versus guilt. It is a time of vigorous action. This is a time of vigorous action and behaviors that parents might assume it to be rather aggressive. Age 3 to 5. So this is the age child will be interacting regularly with other children. Interacting with other children. Generally, it will be doing this. The most important aspect of this stage is play. Where interpersonal skills come to the fore. Why? Because it is playing with other kids. Interpersonal skills come to the fore, which is about you taking the initiative. The kids take the initiative to play with others or to cooperate. They plan the games. They come up with their own game. You might see that game as stupid, but they have come up with their own games. कभी कभी लगता है क्या कर रहा है ये, but it is their own creation. It's their initiative. If you allow them to play the game the way they are, they develop a sense of what? Initiative. Okay. Because the child is the one who is taking the initiative for play and everything. It has so many questions, right, about the surroundings. Even as it plans the activities, it has so many questions. Many times the questions seem to be stupid, and when they start inquiring, especially with the parents are supposed to be calm-headed, cool-headed, and try to come up with the answers which are palatable to the kid. The kid should feel comforted with the answers. So you are not supposed to do what? You are not supposed to probably scream at the kid, maybe, or restrict the kid from asking further questions, right? Mock the kid. So doing this will cause the kid to develop a sense of guilt. It inhibits creativity. They will see themselves to be a source of nuisance, and they will feel guilty about it. The questions might be trivial, but the parents are supposed to encourage it. And sometimes what happens is parents really do not know the answers. That's why they shut them up. The outcome of this stage is purpose. They see purpose. They take the initiative. And when they are able to successfully complete the stage, they get a virtue called purpose. What is the purpose of my actions? They come to understand. What is the purpose of the game they are playing, or the play they have initiated, they have created? Right? Their purpose is just to make up, particular toy, move from this place to that place. For you, it is like silly. For them, it's a great deal. Yes. Yeah. Third stage. Stage 4. Industry versus inferiority. Age group. Industry versus inferiority. 6 to 12 or 5 to 12, you can say. If the child feels that it is industrious, successful completion of this stage will lead to a development of a virtue called competence. This is a stage at which the peer group becomes central to the development of child's personality. They play a central role, the peer group, and they are the ones who are going to shape the self-esteem of the kid as well. So this is when the child feels that it wants approval. It wants approval for what? For its abilities. So it demonstrates certain abilities. That is the industry. It demonstrates certain abilities, and it wants what? It wants some sort of approval. And when it gets the approval or acknowledgement, it has a sense of accomplishment. Right? So they engage in so many activities, right? at school, around the peers. So even as they engage in the activity, if they are encouraged to engage in more and more activities and display their skills or competencies, they will turn out to be, successful in one or the other area. And then they are going to develop a virtue of competence. My work has yielded result, right? And it takes pride in their work. What is that value? Competence or competency. If the child is not encouraged, the child is not encouraged. Soon after the first failure, the child feels like it is not worthy enough and develops a sense of inferiority. Some level of failure is also necessary in every kid's life at this stage. Why? Because competency is good. This is the virtue. Competency is good, but failure is also necessary. So see, when it fails, encouragement is required. It's like a kid is failing. The parent should be supportive enough to say that don't worry, you try again, you will be successful. ऐसा बोलना है. ऐसा नहीं है कि I should not let my child fail, so I'll bribe so as to make him win. Right? इससे क्या होता है? There will be sense of competency, there will be a sense of pride, but it is false pride. Right? Why the kid should fail is because failing and then winning develops a sense of modesty. The child develops a sense of modesty that comes only with failure. Okay, that is still 12. Next, identity versus role confusion. If you are able to form the identity, successful identity formation, age group 12 to 18. The virtue is fidelity. What is fidelity about? Fidelity is the ability to commit oneself to others on the basis of accepting others, even when there are some ideological differences. Some sort of differences exist, but still you accept. Understood? Now, identity gets formed because you are exploring the questions. What questions are you exploring at this age? What am I going to become? What will I be? Who am I? All these questions you are asking yourself, and you are trying to identify yourself on the basis of exploration. If you are able to form the identity at this stage, what is the virtue? Fidelity. right? So you accept who you are and you are ready to accept who others are based on the relationships you have established. If not, outcome is what? Role confusion, which leads to identity crisis. Which leads to identity crisis. What is this identity crisis? Identity crisis is a stage where you start to experiment with many things. Experiment with lifestyle, experiment with professions, experiment with the courses you take, experiment with many things, everything basically, because you have what? Role confusion. So the failure is happening in which stage? Stage number 5. So if it is unsuccessful, the person will have what? Identity crisis, because that question is not yet settled. Next. If somebody is forced to form an identity, then what will happen? There will be unhappiness, right? And there will be rejection of the authority which caused identity formation. Yes. So forced identity formation will lead to rejection of authority, generally the parents, and also it will lead to personal unhappiness. Next. Intimacy versus isolation. Age group 18 to 40, 18 to 30, 18 to 40, 30, Pakka. 30. Intimacy versus isolation. Check. You remember where we studied this? Which chapter? Which chapter? This chapter or the previous chapter? Age group. Intimacy versus isolation. Age group. 18 to 35. Age is not mentioned. Huh? Okay. 18 to 40. Intimacy versus isolation. Intimacy. Successful completion. The virtue that develops is love. So if somebody is not able to form intimate relationships in this age group, then the feeling or the failure will lead to isolation. So it's like a long-term commitment, being able to have a long-term partner. So this is the first time you allow someone to become a long-term companion apart from the family member. So you get a sense of safety, a commitment with this relationship. If intimacy is being avoided, or if somebody fears commitment, it can lead to loneliness and sometimes depression. The virtue is love. What is the last sentence? It may lead to depression and loneliness. Generativity versus stagnation. Generativity versus stagnation. Virtue is care. Age group 40 to 60 or 65. 40 to 60. So 40 to 60, 65. 65 would be fine because India, right? Retirement age. What about the last one? Ego, integrity versus despair, right? Ego, integrity versus despair. What about this? 65 plus. What is the virtue you get? Ego, integrity, wisdom. So what is this generativity versus stagnation? "40 to 65 is not the age of exploration. It's the age of generating something valuable to the society, giving back to the society something good, something valuable, that is in the form of citizens. Who are the citizens? The kids. So giving back to the society through raising children, being productive at work, showing some commitment to the activities in the society. Generativity, through generativity, you are just being a part of a bigger picture. You sense that you are a part of the bigger picture. Till that point, it is mostly individual, right? You are nothing in the bigger picture. Now you are something in the bigger picture. The bigger picture is the society. If you are able to complete this stage, the virtue that you get is care. So why is the virtue care? Because you care for the kids, you care for the society, right? So you are involved in the society, you are seeking betterment of everything around you, basically the workplace even. That is why you get this aspect of care. The virtue that you develop is care. Otherwise, you develop a sense of being a burden to the society. You feel like your presence in the world is of not much importance. You feel unproductive. And the last one is ego, integrity, and despair. I think we have discussed in detail, right? I think we discussed this one in detail. Ego, integrity versus despair. The outcome is what? The virtue is wisdom. Why is it called wisdom? It's because you understand the purpose of life, purpose of your life. What is ego, integrity? You sense that I have been able to achieve what I was set to achieve. There are some, successes, there have been some failures, but I have been able to, right, achieve the things I set out to achieve, and I am content. Now myself is satisfied. Then understanding this much gives you a sense of wisdom, right? That itself is wisdom. What is wisdom? Wisdom is just about what? Understanding the purpose of life. If you have a feeling that you have served the purposes you set out for yourself, then wisdom is the virtue. Otherwise, despair. What did I tell you about death? A person who has ego, integrity will not fear death. A person who has despair will fear death. Okay. So they have a sense of closure, completeness. Who? This one. That itself is wisdom. You might have seen some people, despite not achieving much in their lives, they die happily. Are they wise or not? They are wise. They have wisdom. Why do they have wisdom? See, sitting at that point in time, probably at 70, right? When they look back at life and they think about it, if they have despair, even if they have despair, they just have to understand this. Even if I think so hard, I will not be able to change anything. Just understanding that and accepting their failures and successes will lead to what? Wisdom. Just that. So what is that? Ego, integrity versus despair. So this is your Erickson.
But recently I just heard from my friend WCA, like one of the old age people, 81 years, what is that? 81 years.
So that person, right? That person is still being productive, right? So generativity versus stagnation. Yes. हाँ. उसके बाद क्या था? Ego, integrity versus despair. That is the later stage. One of the criticism about Erickson's stages is that he has clearly given the stages for age groups, but the stages do not proceed as he has given the age groups, right? The age groups can be more for certain stages. The age groups can be different for different people. It varies from person to person, right? That person might still believe that he can do many things. He can be contributing to the society more till 100 maybe. After 100, the last 1 year, he might feel like, okay, I am done, I am happy, I can go, right? So that last stage, ego, integrity versus despair stage, that crisis might come only in the last year of his life. That itself is the criticism. So Erickson, advantages or strengths of his theory? It gives a realistic perspective of personality development. Realistic perspective to personality development. Why? Because it covers the entire lifespan and says that personality development happens throughout life.